Hi, we're on section 9.3 about compound interest, and when we get into the rest of the chapters following this, chapters 12, 13, 14, 15, we're going to be talking a lot about compound interest, both for savings and earning interest as well as loans paying interest. So when we calculate simple interest, it's only on the amount owed or invested, and only the principal earns interest. And so that's like we've already been working with this, right? I equals PRT. So this is a simple interest example where we're just going to take $500 times our rate, and for 1 year, you know, multiplying by 1's not really going to matter, but we're going to show that anyway. And so our interest is $45. And then that's not our ending balance, that's the amount of interest earned in that 1 year. And we're going to then add it to 500. So ending balance is 545, right? That's how much money we would have in the account then after we added the simple interest. On compound interest, that works much nicer for savings for sure. Each time the interest is calculated, we add it to the principal. As the principal increases, then we figure the next amount of interest on the principal plus interest. So it turns out to be very nice because our interest starts earning interest. And I think most people are happy about that for sure. Now, we're going to go through a calculation here. If you deposit $500 in an account paying 9% interest for 1 year, compounded quarterly, what is the ending balance? And I have 2 slides for this calculation. Compounded quarterly means 4 times per year. And so that would be calculated every 3 months. So 3 out of 12 would be 1/4 of the year, right? Because we could take 12 and just divide it by 4 too, and that would be another way to look at it. But our first calculation then will be our interest is $500 times 0.09 times 1/4, because that's our portion of the year. We're just calculating 1 quarter at a time, so every 3 months we earn interest. So our first interest is $11.25, and then we're going to add that to the 500 for the next calculation. So on my second calculation, now my principal has risen because I get to add the interest on. And I multiply that by 0.09 1/4 again. Remember, that's 3 out of 12, and that's how I got that number. So the amount of interest I earned this time has gone up slightly to $11.50, and then I add that to the $511.25, right? My interest gets added to my principal, and so the principal amount for the next step will be $522.75. And so step 3, did I number that step 2? I'm going to use this number $522.75 because I get interest earned on top of interest. And same way, right, 0.09 times 1/4. So I get $11.76, and then I'm going to add that, right? I'm going to add these two together. So my new balance, or my new principal in the account, will be $534.51 and times 1/4. So that is $12.03. I should put the 1 on there. And I add that, right? 534 1151 plus 1203 gives me an ending balance, right? This is going to be my ending balance of 546.54. So that's how compound interest works. We earn some interest, we add it back onto our principal, and then that earns interest. It's a very nice process. My simple interest balance was, at the end of 1 year, was 545. My compound interest balance was 546.54. So just by calculating that, earning interest every quarter, I increase the amount in my account by $1.54. Now that might seem pretty minor, and I suppose it is, but if you're talking about a lot more money and a lot more years, that can certainly make a huge difference in the amount you're earning. I'm going to show you an example of compound interest versus simple interest, compounded yearly, quarterly, and monthly. And so we're going to look at a chart right here. Now, this is very interesting. We're putting $10,000 in an account and just letting it sit for 30 years. The interest amount is 12%. That's pretty high, but there are some accounts that over time have earned a lot, you know, like in mutual funds or something. And so if you notice, compounded monthly is best. The more often you compound, the more your money grows. Simple interest is just the one-time deal, but the rest of these compound more often, and so it's much, much nicer. Notice we have this nice steep curve here. As the longer that money sits, the quicker it grows, or it starts growing, you know, as we get into it a little ways. And that's what it looks like on that kind of graph. And then let's talk about periodic rates. So a periodic rate has to do with your annual interest rate divided by the number of periods. It's a pretty simple calculation to do, and when you're calculating, you can use this number, which is very nice. So on this we take, right, that's 12 times, so 9% divided by 12, so 0.75%, and that would be per month. Right? That's how that works. Semi-annually is 2 times per year, so 6.5% divided by 2. So that would be 3.25%, and that's every 6 months, right? So it's twice a year that it's compounded when it's semi-annual. We've just been talking about quarterly, right? We're going to divide 5% by 4, because quarterly would be 4 times per year, and so that would be 1.25%, and that's every 3 months. Annually is only 1 time, so it would just be 6%, right, because we're dividing by 1. So once a year, 6% interest. Okay. So this last one is just to see if you can calculate this. We are going to use the fact that this is compounded quarterly, and that 5% I showed you earlier, right? 5 divided by 4 would be 1.25%. So we're going to calculate with, right, it's $1,200 for 2 years compounded quarterly at 5%. We're going to take a shortcut on our calculations because we kind of combine the time and the percent, right? That's our periodic rate. As a decimal, it'll be 0.0125. And so each time we calculate interest, we add it back on to our principal. And then that's what we calculate on for the next calculation. So then we calculate 1215 times our periodic rate, and that's 1519. Add that to the 1215, so now we're at 1230.19, and then we just continue on. So you might want to just pause and see if you can fill out this chart, because I'm going to write it on here pretty quickly so the video doesn't get too long. This is the last slide of this lesson. And so 1538. And be careful with your rounding, because if you make a mistake, of course, then everything's off after that. So one little mistake, one error, and I'm trying hard not to make an error either. And I just keep writing away. We're on calculation 4. So then that's 1261.14. And then we calculate on that amount, 1261.14. Our periodic rate, remember that is our interest rate divided by the number of times it compounds. We're on step number 5, that's 1576. Add that to our former balance, and we're at 1276.90. We calculate on 1276.90 for calculation number 6. And that gives us 1596. And our new balance then is 1292.86. We added that to the 1276.90. Calculate our new amount on our balance. We earned interest this time, this quarter, of $16.16, and that's now a balance of $1309.02. One more time, $1309.02 times our periodic rate. Oops. Now I would only have you maybe do 1 year if you were going to calculate this for me on something, so I wouldn't ask you to do 2 years, but I want you to try this because you got to see if you can calculate correctly and round everything the way you're supposed to. Alright, so write that a little bit better. So here's our ending balance in that account, $1325.38, after calculating 8 times for 2 years. This is what would the balance be at the end of 2 years using simple interest. So we just do 1200 times 0.05. Remember, it was 5% interest. And that gives me 120. Add that to the 1200. And we have 1320 exactly. So the compounding way, we earned an extra $5.38 in that account, and just simple interest would have been $13.20. And that's the end of this video. Bye.